Welcome to the March 28th, 2023 episode. That's what I'm calling this now, of Socially Simulated, the podcast that they somehow let us make 3 episodes of. I'm, of course, Brandon Bovia, and I'm joined by my wonderful friends here, who include nice people like Stephen. Are you there?
Hello, hello.
Jenny?
Hello.
Kirstin?
Hello.
We got the full squad.
Yeah. I'm sorry I wasn't there last time.
Yeah, how dare you?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was spending time with family like a chump.
I mean, to be fair, I almost didn't make the last one either, and
Nor did Sony.
I still haven't released that episode yet, so folks could technically have no idea what we're talking about.
It's the lost episode. We already have one of those.
I started editing it yesterday.
Nice.
But we got a few things to talk about on this little show we're doing today. They dropped like actual real footage of the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. As of this recording, it's been about a day since the 3DS and Wii U eShops closed down, so we'll talk about that a little bit. And maybe some Pokemon stuff if we get to it, and maybe just even games we're playing if we even get to that. We're just gonna vibe it out. But I feel like we all have a lot to talk about Zelda since Mr. Al Numa, with his fresh haircut, showed up on YouTube and played around with Tears of the Kingdom for 10 minutes. I think before we get into things, the biggest thing that they showed off was definitely like all of the combining mechanics, right? The fusing stuff.
Yeah.
How do y'all feel about that?
It felt like they really wanted to focus on expanding on the sort of sandbox elements of Zelda, and they're like, let's show everyone that.
Yeah, because it's like, I mean, we joked about this. Everybody was joking about it with the last trailer, where it was like, oh, they're just kind of like doing all of the wacky speedrun tech and just putting it in the game, but sort of seeing it demoed firsthand and how seamless it is, or you could just kind of like bloop and put stuff together. I don't know, it's cool.
What's interesting to me is that I'm looking at like Tears of the Kingdom like as a package, and it's like they did 3 things. They added the like building mechanics, so they made it like basically like, oh, you can craft things like within the overworld like on the spot, and they put the Wind Waker worlds on top of the existing overworld basically, except instead of an ocean, it's the sky. And they have the existing overworld, which they changed. So it's like there's 3 things kind of meshed all together to be like Breath of the Wild's times Breath of the Wild, basically. Like,
yeah. We definitely only saw little bits and pieces of the sky, but like I'm kind of getting the feeling it is as big as the rest of the world, as Breath of the Wild Hyrule.
Yeah, it's surprisingly meaty, because I feel like in the first trailers they kind of showed us smaller up in the air areas, and this looks a lot more substantial now. So it's like, oh, there's a crap ton to do up here.
I guess that's sort of the missing piece still, is kind of like what the kind of core gameplay loop will be like, because we know we're up in the sky, but we don't really know what our objectives are or what we'll be doing, or if like we're bringing back shrines, or if there's proper dungeons back up here. So it's kind of like, I don't know, I have a lot of questions still, but I feel like this was still the most substantial look at the game. But I feel like I've seen everything I need to see. I was gonna buy this video game anyway, but
yeah.
I don't know. Steven, how are you feeling?
I agree. I really liked seeing this little bit of gameplay and highlighting some stuff, because a lot of it is more Breath of the Wild. And this, unfortunately, does include weapon durability, depending on how you feel about it. But the fuse mechanic alleviates a lot of my problems with what weapon durability is, because you can just, for example, slap a rock on top of a tree branch to increase the damage and durability of the tree branch, which is silly, but it works, I suppose.
Yeah, so I'm a filthy weapon durability defender.
Me too.
Okay.
Because
Filthy
because
indeed, the two of you.
Yeah. Because I understand the problems that folks had with it, but I think the core idea of kind of like getting you to improvise and think on your feet is kind of what they were trying to do with it in the original Breath of the Wild. But here, it feels like you'll just be literally like, oh, my weapon's about to break, I'm just gonna like start grabbing stuff and gluing it together. And that feels like a really natural kind of a way to address those criticisms without taking out that system outright.
I think the one thing I would love to see is, like, we know the Master Sword is like super fucked up and stuff, But if we do restore it at some point, please don't make the Master Sword break anymore, because that drove me insane in Breath of the Wild. Like, the other weapons, fine, but the Master Sword should not break.
I think it would make sense because you can have the things you attach to the Master Sword break, but the Master Sword itself can just be like a default. So instead of needing to grab a stick and put a rock on it, you can just put a rock on the Master Sword, but maybe the Master Sword, the rock will break off the Master Sword eventually. So the buff won't last forever, but you'll still have that like base to kind of go back to.
Yeah, I like that.
The Master Sword, I don't remember how powerful it was in Breath of the Wild, but like I don't think it was one of the strongest weapons technically either. So it's like that balances it out too. So, you know.
It only got stronger once it did the DLC sword trial. Like initially it was basically just like I think it was like 30. I think it became 60 eventually. It was not that good.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if the DLC is canon, because I feel like they acknowledge that like the DLC happened, and it's like, oh yeah, you unlocked the full potential of the Master Sword or whatever, so it stops breaking. And then it's like, oh, you know, and now it's broken in this game, and then if at some point you repair it and it's like, well, weapon durability, I'd be like, no. Don't. So yeah, I hope they listen to that at least. And I think if they can kind of like put the Master Sword in a class of its own, where it kind of has other things, other utility that kind of don't really involve durability.
Or even the alternative is the Master Sword can't fuse with anything. So like like you can, it works anytime if you just want to be vanilla and just have your pokey stick. But if you want to actually like mess around, you have to use other weapons. So it sort of has it both ways.
Yeah, which would be great actually, because then that would mean you'd have a weapon like to fall back on at all times that doesn't break.
Yeah, but it's a boring weapon. You want something you want a stick you can put rocks on.
Yeah, that sounds like a much better approach to me.
Mm-hmm. I also like the fact that and I guess this can be any bow, because he specified, you know, you can attach things to arrows. So I wonder what the limit to that is. I think it's just all random materials like monster materials and food, but I do wonder what each of those things do. Like, we know that the Keese eyeball makes the arrow like home onto monsters or animals. You know,
what happens if you put meat
elemental
on
materials will apply?
It tastes good.
So that it tastes good. It's really cool to me knowing now that I don't need to have like fire, ice, and electric arrows. I can just carry it. It adds another use for choo-choo jellies.
Yeah, because after a certain point in Breath of the Wild, like your monster, like you're just drowning in monster parts. Like there wasn't really a whole lot of use for them. So it just like, to me, it's the perfect solution.
I mean, in the DLC, the motorcycle literally just had, you put parts in as fuel, just like random junk. It's just like figure out your inventory.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just whatever, just put it in. We got nothing else to use with this.
Now I'm actually curious, because Breath of the Wild had bows that let you shoot multiple arrows at once. So if you use an item, does it apply to all of those arrows? Because that
could
would
be fun.
Be really disgusting and fun to use.
Throwing out just like 3 or 4 homing arrows at a time.
That would be horrifying for whatever you're fighting.
Crowds.
I really want them to get
funnels now.
I really want them to get creative with it. Like I want it where if you maybe if you do put meat on it and you like, I don't know, I just want them to do like really weird things you wouldn't expect. So you'll experiment and you'll put meat on a sword and it'll like scare off other animals. It'll scare off like wildlife because it's like a dead body to them. Like just something like that where it can just unconventional effects. That sort of like it. I saw a comparison online that it almost brings to mind is Scribblenauts, where it's like the combinations of things you can do are endless, and it's like whenever you come across a puzzle, you're like, okay, do I use a stick and a rock, a bow and a meat, some other there's endless combination.
It's like the second that they showed off the fuse mechanic, I was like, oh, that's why this game took 6 years.
Yeah, because they had all of these combinations to figure out. Yeah, part of me just does not want to look at Twitter at all when this game comes out and just try to find all of these weird and wacky things for myself.
Yeah.
100% agree with that. I mean, still today we have people finding crazy things in Breath of the Wild, which is cool, but most people aren't going to go back and do that. But with this new game, it's like, I don't want to see what anyone else is doing. I want to try all this stupid, ridiculous things for myself first.
I have an idea for something they should do. I don't know if they would, but it'd be cool if, like, if you can find certain like supplies for building things, if you could like save them somehow in a similar way how you can have horses at stables. Because it would be awesome if you could like build elaborate flying machines and like make like blueprints for them and share them online and show people like,
that'd be rad.
like I don't think they'll do that, at least the way I'm describing it, but I really hope there is like measures where you can get really elaborate with your buildings.
I hope Link has like a hangar for like a like a military hangar, or like a
Yeah.
hangar where he just like has all of his completely cursed flying machines. It just having a place to store them would be really rad.
The thing I will point out is in the footage when Link goes up to the fan, he does have the option to pick it up. Aonuma just smacks it and it starts blowing wind, but it seems like he can like pick up the like wind turbines and store them, so he can at least run around with materials seemingly to build things.
It would make sense if it was like you could bring like 4 turbines with you at any time or something, where it's like you can carry them around if you want to save them for a contraption, but like not too many where you can't just have like a million different fans at once.
Yeah.
Where does Link carry all those? Where does he carry all these materials? The age-old question.
In his magic hand, it can absorb things.
The thing that's so crazy to me is like this was a concept in the base game of Breath of the Wild. Like we had the octo balloons where you could attach them to something to lift it up, but it felt like it wasn't the most intuitive, and I feel like not a lot of people actually did it because you had to get the octo balloons from Octo Rocks, and that could be a pain in the butt and all that. And it's like it feels like they added all these things specifically to encourage people to really build and get more creative with what they can do, which is really nice, I think.
And there will be balloons in this one too, because that's one of the builds they show is a big hot air balloon. So I'm like, what do you kill to get the big parts for that?
Oh yeah. So I'm wondering, with all of this all of like the crafting and fusing and stuff, like how will this actually like turn into kind of like the kind of gameplay mechanics for the like the critical path? Because it feels like really fun in like a sandbox terms, and I'm sure there'll be like the equivalent of like like shrine riddles and stuff like that, where you kind of have to make a weird combination of things to get to a certain place. But I guess I just wonder like what part of this in Link's toolkit will like, how would you do this in like a potential shrine or a dungeon?
Yeah, I don't really know, because all of the stuff, well, not everything, but like the going through ceilings part, that seems more like sequence breaking tools to me in a dungeon rather than like steps to complete a room in a dungeon. I don't know how they're going to be able to, and we'll find out soon, but I don't know how dungeons or shrines or whatever those like areas on the map could lead to.
Honestly, they'll probably just take it away from you.
Yeah, they did
like
specifically say
shrines.
They did say you can't use it everywhere.
Right.
So I think they're pretty clear with that. Like if you're in a specific dungeon or a large area like that, you won't be able to zip through the ceiling.
That would make sense. Yeah.
Maybe the dungeons are underground anyway, so it wouldn't matter.
Well, yeah, that's one thing. Like, it's interesting because they really did show more of the loop here, but there's still like so much we don't know. This is the least we've known about like any Nintendo game going in. It feels like because
yeah,
we still don't know what those spiral things are on the map. And they only seem to be on the surface too.
Yeah, I was watching the beginning again earlier, and I was noticing that like even in the brief moment where they're on the old map, like the surface, there's still I see a lot of landmarks I don't recognize from Breath of the Wild, but it has been a while, but it does seem like they're populating the ground with new landmarks too, so they're not leaving that completely behind just as like the background.
This game could be very big. Breath of the Wild was already very big.
Because I like the idea of the dungeons being on the ground, so the ground still has reasons to like explore beside, and like the stuff, my theory sort of was that the stuff you unlock from dungeons or shrines or whatever the equivalent are will be used to help you get higher into the sky, and that
Yeah.
whatever your goal is in this game, it's to get to the highest point in the sky. That's kind of how I think the progression will be. So maybe like Link's curse with his arm, the more he gets each dungeon he goes to, maybe that makes the curse stronger, but that gives him more powers to get higher into the air, like more access to like wacky like crafting things he can do.
I kind of said jokingly earlier today that we would be going into space, but I'm willing to believe that the
I mean,
more that I think about it.
Aliens were a cut concept from Breath of the Wild, and so was the motorcycle, and the motorcycle happened.
Oh boy.
The other thing I've been really curious about is because we've not seen. I can't remember because I didn't rewatch all the original trailers, but I don't think we've seen any of the original Sheikah Slate skills.
Nope, because Zelda has a Sheikah Slate right now.
Yeah,
We saw like a duplicate power, like in one of the trailers, like there's a spike ball that's heading toward Link or something.
Oh, and he reverses.
Oh, that
time
might have been the
which he-
rewind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the rewind that they showed.
the thing I'm curious about is like, where's my bomb?
That's a good
That's
point.
like
I
the
didn't
most
think
Yeah,
of that.
important thing.
where are the Zelda items? Yeah.
It's like, I feel like a lot of the other skills that come with the Sheikah Slate, they were useful, but it's like, I need my bombs because I like making things go boom.
I'm looking at the UI right now. Like there's like up is for food, like left on the D-pad is for shields, right is for sword, maybe down is for bomb. They just haven't shown it yet.
Maybe
was down on the D-pad the
I think so because it's on L in this trailer, but I don't remember. So maybe I'm reading into nothing. But I'm like, that's an empty spot. Maybe there's bombs.
I was gonna play Breath of the Wild today actually, but I got sidetracked doing other things. And I say watching this video really gave me an itch to go back and play it.
Yeah,
I have yet to finish it. So
it's I've been thinking about this game all day.
To answer your question, the food button was not originally in Breath of the Wild. Up on the D-pad was your abilities.
Okay, interesting.
Okay.
So the food button is entirely new, but I'm here for that. I need quick access to food.
Interesting. L switches between sword and hand symbols. I don't know what it is. Like if I was super dedicated like some Zelda YouTubers, I would like go frame by frame and see like what specific inputs led to which. But I'm not that crazy. I'll just play it when
I noticed this earlier. L seems to be the button that switches between your hand skills.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
So it's like where I am right now. He has the ability to zorp up through ceilings. So it's like it's a little picture of a dude swimming through the cosmic sea to go through rock.
Oh wait, yeah, you're right. Because when he's doing the like crafting thing, it's the hand. When it's going up, okay, that makes sense. Then there's the sword itself. Yeah, that makes sense. Definitely excited to try out these new abilities, and I'm guessing there's more they haven't shown yet. Because
I'm sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
My one hope is the thing. It'd be nice if there were abilities you unlocked throughout the game this time instead of it all being on the Great Plateau. Like, 'cause I mean, in that previous trailer, it showed Link getting these abilities from these from the goddesses, maybe. So like maybe that's going to be actual like new abilities for his cursed hand that weren't there previously. Like because of the new unique design of this game, you don't need them all at once.
Yeah, I definitely think they're not going to give you everything like they did with the Sheikah Slate right away, because I think they're going to assume going into this you're more experienced, so you can be on your own with a little less safety for a while.
It's a weird innovation where this game might actually have more of a linear progression than Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
I think what would be best is if they made it where like technically you don't need to get all the abilities to finish the game, but you'd have to be like an insane speedrunner to do that. You'd have to be like, I think the best balance is to have it where it's an option, but it's not a practical option at all. Just to still have that linear path where they can design specific like dungeons or puzzles around adding new things. Because that's the one thing that was really missing from Breath of the Wild.
And I think that's the other thing too, because like you already have the Breath of the Wild Hyrule as the open playground. And so now the sky or potentially other areas can serve as your like relatively linear. You go until you need a new ability, then you can go a little bit further, or it's sort of kind of like a traditional Zelda game. The world kind of the sky unravels naturally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I wonder what the reason is for going to the Sky Islands. Like, why?
Yeah.
What's compelling the player to go there? Other than just, oh, a platform fell from the sky and now I can use the rewind power to go up.
Link wants to feel big and powerful. He wants to be on top of Hyrule.
He just gets a thrill from skydiving.
At the same time, on that note, this is very much the Monolith Soft team doing a bit of flexing, but I love that you can just either jump off of or get knocked off of the Sky Island, and there's no loading screen. You just fall to the ground.
I've never seen anything like that in any video game ever. I think I'm willing to say seeing that before my eyes on this little like underpowered little Android tablet, just like, oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, well, the part in the trailer where like an enemy like knocks Link off the island and he starts falling down, like I was like, ah, when that happened when I first watched it. I don't have a fear of heights, but just seeing Link get knocked off and just plummeting to his doom, that was like oh wow, this gives me a fear of heights when I don't usually have one.
Are going to be some extremely funny moments when this game comes out of people just
absolutely.
like completely eating it.
I thought back to the first trailer now, and I've realized why we're going to the sky. Because in the first trailer, they show you Hyrule Castle being lifted up from the ground. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, I bet you Hyrule Castle's at the highest possible elevation, and like your objective for the game is to get up there, just to get as high as you possibly can.
Oh, speedrunners are going to do that in 5 minutes.
Oh, absolutely.
If you gain enough momentum, you can just yeet yourself up there.
There you go.
Pretty much.
Yeah, and I like that on the topic of knocking you off an island, I like that enemies can also have fused weapons. Because they made a note of that where the I forgot what that weapon the enemy is called, but they had like a stick and a construct. Yeah, the construct had a stick and a wooden board. And he just whacked you off the island.
I'm ready to get super duper annoyed by enemies with weapons like that. I just feel like they're going to be infuriating.
And that's when you pull out the meat arrows and just shoot them with meat from afar.
There you go.
It'll distract him.
Perfect.
Of all the things I've seen in the sky, just like looking around, it looks like there's just some giant cubes in the sky for some reason. I don't know why.
I noticed that. Like, are those dungeons? I don't know.
I wanna visit the sky cubes.
and I saw a dragon in the sky at one point. I don't know if it's the same ones from Breath of the Wild, but I saw a dragon flying through there.
Looks like, I mean, I couldn't tell which one it was. I couldn't tell what colors or by design. I'm sure someone has already.
It looks like it's by that icy mountain and on the east of the map, so I'm guessing it's the same one that's usually there. But I also I'm like looking towards closer to the beginning, and I noticed like a big like storm cloud around one island. So like, what's going on over there?
Yeah, I definitely noticed the storm clouds in a couple shots.
I am very curious because I understand that like this 10 minutes or so was basically going on about the brand new sort of open world mechanics, but I do wish they'd kind of gone into, dungeons or what we're gonna have as far as that sort of thing, because that was definitely the big negative for me in Breath of the Wild. Is it just I wanted dungeons and we didn't really get that.
I'm curious about that too, because I mean, I feel like one of the things everyone said when they announced the Breath of the Wild sequel is like, oh, maybe this one will probably expand upon dungeons, right? And it's been like 3 years since they revealed it, and it's like, right, you're gonna show us there's gonna be dungeons. Where are they? Like, so there's gotta be something. It's just very weird that we have seen literally nothing that could even possibly be a dungeon, which makes me hope they're hiding something and not that there's none.
Said on a side comment, there are no divine beasts, but like they haven't even shown any indication of shrines or anything. So I feel like if shrines were back, they would have shown them.
Yeah.
So, well, that's what I was saying earlier. Like, what are those red and green spirals on the surface? Like, are those not? Maybe those aren't shrines. Maybe there's something else. But like, we haven't actually seen shrines or divine beasts or other really other characters, like other key characters.
Yeah, where's Sidon?
I'm okay with not knowing much about the story, but we have not seen a whole lot of content in the game yet. We'll probably get one more or two more, like just regular trailers before the game comes out. But I really don't need to see anything before I start playing.
I remember in the lead up to Breath of the Wild's release, like we didn't even know if there were towns in it until like that January 2017 trailer.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, most of what we saw of the game prior to that was like the Great Plateau and like very small sections outside of that.
Yeah, we hadn't even seen any characters until that trailer.
Right,
Like,
yeah. So we were like, oh yeah,
like,
these characters. This is a story.
So basically what I just said. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay not knowing more about the story, but I want a little bit more about the core loop. Like where our objective is. Show me some sort of big underground place that we get to explore or something.
Yeah, because like I said earlier, like what's the motivation for Link to go to these Sky Islands other than to explore?
Yeah, that's something where I'm okay that they didn't show it. Like it's one of those things where if they did show it, I would have only wanted them to show it briefly. Because I mean, as weird as this game's marketing has been, I am very much looking forward to experiencing this all completely blind, like because with how little they've shown. But it's one of those things where it's like I don't think it would have killed them to show a tiny bit more, just to kind of wet our whistle a little more. But I'm a little split on that, honestly.
I do think it will be kind of cool as like a collective experience for like all of us as Nintendo fans of like we're all kind of discovering the game together. And I think I can understand that's probably what they want, especially seeing like the social media response to Breath of the Wild, that it's like, you know, you want people to kind of communally discover the game together.
Well, especially just because a lot of the other Big Switch exclusives are ones where they show everything beforehand, like Smash, Mario Kart, obviously, but even like Mario Odyssey, they showed pretty much everything in that game beforehand. And Zelda feels like the one thing where they want it to be something you experience on your own. So I feel like that's kind of why they're marketing it this way, but it had until recently it's been too dry for its own good.
Yeah. Only outdone by Splatoon 3 for bad trailers.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said earlier, but it's like this whole demonstration, its focus was on the open world and new sort of exploration elements, which is fine, but that's what the whole first game was. So it's like I want a little bit more of the core element of the game, you know, because the crafting's fun, but that's all really technically optional. You know, I don't need to fuse weapons. I mean, I'll probably need to travel up into the sky and whatnot, but show me what the inside of a big old cavern looks like.
Or the cube.
Or the cube.
Or the cube.
The sky cube.
All right. Does anyone have any other feelings about Tears of the Kingdom before we move on?
I
need to make sure
Zelda.
Wow.
One at a time. David, you got any lingering feelings about Tears of the Kingdom?
I really need to finish Breath of the Wild, and I'll play more soon.
You have 6 weeks.
Yep.
I want playable Zelda.
Yes.
Speaking to the choir here.
Please.
I recommend to everyone watching this or listening to this, just watch the presentation again, but stare at Link's hair. It's so luscious and long now. I'm obsessed with it.
He doesn't brush his hair.
Piggybacking on the playable Zelda thing, maybe if Zelda is playable, that could mean a more linear story. In certain parts of the story, Zelda would be playable.
If the Zelda sections are the dungeons,
ooh,
chef's kiss, and she's got the Sheikah Slate.
Yeah, well,
give me that.
I mean, because the first game had the memories. What if the equivalent to that in this game is sections where you like commune with Zelda from like the underworld, and you play as her for a while as like your pace breakers. Like,
yeah.
Okay. Well. Hard to transition out of that, but I would like to talk about a death in the family, because this week we lost the 3DS and Wii U. The eShops gone, not forgotten. Well, maybe a little forgotten, but
Wii U is forgotten.
I don't know. Everybody, how are you feeling about this? Like it, I don't know.
Jenny,
did you buy anything last
I
minute?
actually didn't buy anything. For
Wow.
one, because I do plan on playing my Wii U sometimes, like just messing around with it, like doing something with it that I don't need to get into detail with soon with my Wii U. Like, so like I didn't really feel need to buy anything there because I'll probably be able to play whatever I want to on there sometime soon. 3DS, I was a lot more tempted to because I do have a very like 3DS was like a console I got really into when I was a teen, and I was bummed that it's going away. Like, even to like recently, every now and then I would go on there and just see what games are on there that are still only on there and maybe pick something up. And I didn't this time, but I had pretty much everything I cared about immediately on there right now, and some stuff like Game Boy games are coming to Switch soon anyway. But so like I didn't do like panic buying like some people did, but I am just a little bit bummed.
Kirsten, how are you feeling about this whole thing?
I'm a broken person because of this. When they announced it, I knew it was an inevitability because like it happened to the Wii. It was just a matter of time. But it's like for the 3DS in particular, I mean I already owned so many games for the 3DS, and I was just like, this is a lot faster than I anticipated it to shut down. I think I spent more money than I would wish to publicize getting games on both those systems.
Yeah, me too.
But it's just like, damn. I'm gonna shout out in particular the only platform that this game was available on. There were 4 Metabot games on the Wii U that are now no longer available in English anywhere.
Those were a virtual console, right?
Yeah.
Oh, in English, yeah. Because I was gonna say that they had a collection, I'm pretty sure, in Japan.
Yeah, I bought the Japanese collection. So I have all those games in Japanese, but you know, if you ever wanted those ones in English, they're gone unless they decide to port them at some point.
Yeah, that's a like kind of speaking to virtual console in particular, but also just in general, like there's just weird stuff on those eShops that they're never going to show up anywhere else again. Just like
No.
the 3DS in particular is just such a like specific and idiosyncratic kind of handheld gaming platform that just like I can be a little bit bummed about the Wii U that there are games on the Wii U eShop that like either will never get ported or will play better on Wii U, but like the 3DS is just chock full of experiences that like can't be had anywhere else.
That's what's I really enjoyed about the DS form factor, is that like out of any console, just from any company, it's the most irreplaceable. Like there's a reason that like very few DS games get ported to consoles these days. I mean, it happens sometimes like with Ghost Trick, but like
yeah,
it's not easy to, because it's harder to play when emulated, which is a pain for preservation or bringing stuff to modern consoles, but makes the console itself, the DS itself and the 3DS as well, feel very one of a kind. And losing like this entire treasure trove full of games that are like even the ones that can get brought over haven't been brought over, like Pushmo for some reason. Like it just bums me out. With like, why does it have to be this early? Honestly,
yeah. Like I bought all 3 Pushmo games and the Professor Layton and Ace Attorney games because I thought that they were going to come to Switch or other platforms.
The Ace Attorney is on mobile, but no.
Well, I'd rather play it on my DS than my tablet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I didn't mean to. Well, actually, I bring that up as if that is an option that anyone is going to use.
I'm glad that thank you, Capcom, for at least making each Ace Attorney game on 3DS $3.
Even the collection is $3. That's $1 per game.
Oh yeah, the first 3 games. Yep.
Yeah, which is just absurd.
I just really wish that we had HD ports outside of the phone and tablet.
And if just games in general.
Well, it's just like Fire Emblem Fates. I mean, for all of the opinions that people have on it, myself included, is one of the most popular Fire Emblem games that has representation in Smash Brothers and Engage, and like 1/3 of that game is now inaccessible. You have to own like a collector's edition from like Japan or something to have one of the 3 stories for that game, and that's just absurd to me. Like so soon, that game is not even. It's like 7 years old at this point. That's young.
Just the cart goes for like $400 on eBay.
Oh my
right
god!
Yeah, I have
pay that much
cart.
money for Fates.
No, do not pay that much money for Fates.
I'm a big Fire Emblem fan post Awakening, just because games before Awakening, sans like Shadow Dragon on DS, were really hard to find. But Fates is a blind spot for me. I did end up, well, I now own all 3 Fates campaigns. I will play them at some point. I have no experience with them at all. I don't know why they're so bad to a lot of people. But I hope I'll find something to enjoy at least, but I will play through them.
There. The thing I will say is, like, there's tons of criticism to be had about Fates that I will not start to get into, but if you can step away from like a lot of the internal conflict of the Fire Emblem community, they're fine games. There's nothing too wrong with them outside of a few story elements that are kind of cringy, but that's really it.
It was fun to be a part of that. That discourse was fun.
I know people who I know people who love that game too. It's like I can respect that, and it's just like, even if it's a game I don't personally like, I can't vibe with it being gone forever when it's like such a recent game too. It just I don't understand it.
Other than Fates, the only other like last minute purchase that I made, because I really thought they were going to be added to NSO, were Pokemon Yellow and Crystal. We talked about this on show before, but I was really hoping that they would announce, oh, now NSO has GBA and Game Boy games. We can now put Pokemon Generation 1 and 2 on there at least.
That sounds like your fault for being excited for Pokemon Presents.
I'm hopeful, but I'm just like, you know what? They're $10 a pop. I might as well just get both of them and call it a day.
I mean, off topic, but I was like so sure they would announce that Presents. That I was traveling that day, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna like connect my Switch to my phone hotspot in case they announce, or for when they announce that, so I can update it and play Pokemon while traveling. But then they didn't do it, and I'm like, oh, I don't need to do that then, I guess.
Yep.
So yeah, I do have Red and Blue on 3DS though, so I still have that option.
Yeah, I have every single Pokemon game on 3DS.
I'm so surprised.
Yeah, no.
Big shock.
Prior to the Switch, the 3DS was like my most beloved child in my household. I played that thing like a freaking lunatic. I think I still probably have more hours on my 3DS than I do on my Switch. It's just, between like the various Monster Hunter games and everything else, it was just like that thing owned my life.
I was gonna say Monster Hunter, or the 3DS was how I got into Monster Hunter, because me and some of my college friends, like we all bought 3DSs around the same time in anticipation for Pokemon X and Y, and then we're sufficiently whelmed by that and just kind of kept playing Monster Hunter. And so that just kind of became like our group thing, and so that's I associate the 3DS in particular, 3 Ultimate, 4 Ultimate, and a little bit of Generations as sort of like, those were my core multiplayer experiences during college with friends. So Capcom, yes, also sold those games for $3, and the week before the store closed. But
I'm really glad Capcom did that. That's like a really great move. It makes me mad that Nintendo didn't do that, because
yeah, because I was looking at I was talking with a mutual friend of ours. I'm looking at all the Ace Attorney games, and I see, Professor Layton versus Ace Attorney. That's published by Capcom, right? No, that's published by Nintendo, which means not going on sale.
Yeah.
So I had to buy that thing for all $30 dues, unfortunately.
The last game that I bought was Rhythm Heaven Mega Mix, and that one was...
I wish I bought that. I completely forgot about that game.
Yeah, that was the only like expensive game that I bought, because basically everything else I already had or was Virtual Console, so it was all like $10 or less. But that was the one thing where it's like I was kind of hoping it would go on sale, last minute, but it wasn't, and I was like, screw it, I'll throw down the $30 or whatever it was.
most of the purchases I made were a little bit last year. It was like long before they added Game Boy on it, so I bought a few Game Boy games that I'm gonna check out. And like there wasn't a ton of like major games I wanted to get that didn't have physical versions, but Rhythm Heaven is one of those. So now I'm sad.
Yeah.
I completely forgot that game exists.
Wasn't Rhythm Heaven one of those games that got physical in other places but not North America?
Yep, only in Japan.
Yeah.
Which is so dumb. There was another one, Dylan's Dead Heat Breakers, which I'm just a huge Dylan fan, but it only got physical in Japan and Europe, not even North America. And I'm like, that's so freaking rude. 3DS being region locked was annoying.
And even like some of like the small stuff just makes me sad that it's not going to be around anymore. Like I know it was a stupid monetization thing, but I liked the badge arcade and the themes. Like there was so much like customization and, dare I say, charm in that console, and now it's just, it can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Imagine menu music. What's that? I don't know what that is anymore.
Into the Switch, and you're just like, you got black and white. Suck it up.
Literally, like I mean, I'm not asking for the world, but it was nice to have those little things that made it feel like mine. That's why I feel like I feel more attached to my 3DS than I do like pretty much any other console I've had. Like all up through growing up, whenever we got a new console, we would trade in the old one, and I've kind of kept that mentality as an adult. But the 3DS, I would never get rid of mine. I have the Samus Returns new 3DS. I have all these themes and badges on there. I have all these digital games. Like, and now it's finite. There's like an expiration date to it, and like it feels earlier than that the system deserves. It's an old system, but it's not that old.
You know what? You can still buy digital games on that is a much less successful handheld than the 3DS. The Vita.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this the other day. The 3DS and Wii U eShops closed before the PlayStation 3 and Vita. You can't buy PlayStation 3 and Vita games through the website like you could with Nintendo on the eShop. They were like
you used to be able to, but yeah.
Now you can't, but you can still open your PS Vita or turn on your PS3 and find the digital storefronts.
Which, and well, I mean, I guess it's funny because we all kind of like collectively bullied Sony out of doing that, out of shutting down the stores, and they've just kind of kept them up, and we're like, well, these aren't going to be up forever, obviously. But it's just one of those things that's like, well, now we have two. Well, in the 3DS's case, more successful than the Vita, and in the case of the Wii U, at least newer than the PS3. It's sort of like both of those stores are gone, but meanwhile, the much older PS3 and the much less successful Vita are still kicking.
I wish bullying Nintendo worked. It's like the one company that doesn't stand right.
Nintendo just does their own thing, for better or worse.
I can't think of a single time where they've actually listened to like a fan backlash.
Super Mario Maker 2.
I thought of that the same one, and that we kind of regret that because the multiplayer.
Oh yeah, that
bad.
That's the only time.
Yeah.
And that one is probably one of their more egregious things. It'd be like, but still, yeah.
For me, the 3DS means a lot because I couldn't play the Wii and Wii U, so the only Nintendo console I could play on past GameCube was the DS and 3DS. So it was lots of Pokemon. It was the only platform that I could play Smash on. Thank you, Sakurai and Bandai Namco, for bringing Smash 4 to 3DS. But it's just, I have zero interest in getting a Wii U now. None. There's just no point. Even if there was one readily available, used for like $200, I have no motive to get one.
Well, you know what? Never mind.
You can.
It's not that I didn't say that is actually a thing. I didn't say that there is one, but even if there was, it's.
Oh no! I was alluding. There are things.
It's surprisingly easy to do it, but
but it's also a 32 gigabyte console.
Yeah.
So you'd have to buy an external SSD to do what I know you're going to.
I have a 2 terabyte external hard drive for my Wii U.
Oh my gosh.
That's too much.
The worst part is that the Wii U is picky because it can't power hard drives off of the single USB, so you need like a splitter.
Oh, you know what? I saw Gerard's video on the
Oh,
eShops, and I was like, wait, why are you covering both ports for one hard drive? And he
Yep.
was like, oh, one's for power, one's for storage. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh no.
Yeah. I dealt with it because when I was younger and like the Wii U was still getting games, I got an external hard drive, and I didn't realize that. And
Yeah.
at one point, I think I turned on the Wii U and like some like data got corrupted. Nothing major, but because of
Yeah.
how stingy it was, and it's like,
Terrible.
ugh, yeah. And I don't have everything downloaded on my Wii U right now. Some of it's like, I mean, you can re-download things even with the eShop being down, which is, I mean, something. But
Yeah.
like, if I want to play those, I'll have to rearrange or buy a hard and keep plugged in the separate like external drive, and it's so stupid. I hate that concept.
I have a drive specifically for the Wii U. It's just like
the Wii U's.
Yeah.
Some people have been trying to rebuild the Wii U's reputation as like it was good
No.
actually, and I'm like, no, it sucks. It was
Absolutely
a bad
not.
console.
A bad console can have good games.
I have nostalgia for it. It has some good games, but the console itself is like, if I had like a week, I wouldn't be able to list every single problem it has.
Well, I love how this went from eulogizing the 3DS to be like, man, you know what was trash? The Wii U.
Well, because I'm thinking as we were talking, I'm like, wow, we're talking a lot more about the 3DS eShop than we are about the Wii U eShop.
Yeah.
Wonder why that could
like,
be.
Like I said, it's not nothing, you know, like the Wii U's definitely losing some stuff, but it's just like that console's best games can be played elsewhere. And can be played through other means, but the 3DS, yeah.
I still want ports for Twilight Princess, Wind Waker, and Xenoblade X. Will we get
the
those?
big three?
Probably not. They're the last ones left of
Yeah.
the big tentpole games that either don't have a port or a sequel on Switch.
Nobody wants Color Splash. Wow. Or Star Fox
Well,
Zero.
good.
Sorry.
Damn.
I think Xenoblade X might get a port soon. Now that Xenoblade's like current saga is kind of wrapped up, I have a feeling they're going to continue X soon. But for all it might not either, because that game wasn't as popular as 1 or 2, like by a lot.
It'd be really funny if we got a sequel to Xenoblade X without a reliable way to play Xenoblade X.
I would be emotionally shattered if we got a sequel, because it would literally mean I'd have to finish playing X on my Wii U.
Yeah, me too. Like, all right, well, time to refresh myself. And
I don't know if I've said this on show before, but I have said it a few times off recording. If we don't get any news from Nintendo by the end of the year, something to do with Xenoblade X, I'm just going to emulate it on my PC. Because I want to play it, and I will give you the money. You are not allowing me to give you the money.
Oh, I was also going to comment on Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, where what's going to come first, ports of those or GameCube and SO?
Probably ports of those, honestly.
Probably,
yeah, we'll probably be we'll be at the next system before that.
Yeah.
I think those games are in such a weird place, because like on the Wii U, they were sort of titles that were part of the last hurrah, where it's like, we don't have any new titles to bring out, so let's give you some cool HD ports of these older Zelda games. And it's like, don't make that the same for Switch. Just give it to me before you release your next console.
Don't pat them out, like
please.
And I really hope if they do it, it's both of them together for $60. I know everyone says that Nintendo could easily do them separately, and I know that, but just put them together. You did 3D All-Stars, you can do this with Zelda also. Like, come on.
There's so many ways it could go wrong. It's just
That's just I would cough up the $60 for Twilight Princess and Wind Waker individually, but good lord, I hope they come together.
Individually? No, not me.
I would.
No.
Here's the thing. That's the difference. Twilight Princess is my favorite Zelda game, so I'll cough up any price for that motherfucker.
It is also my favorite 3D Zelda, but not $60 favorite now.
I love Zelda, but I still haven't gotten Skyward Sword HD for $60. I don't think it's a terrible price because that's a long game, but also for that price, there's other things that are more of a priority for me. And I would probably be the same with Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, even though I haven't actually played Twilight Princess.
Every day it becomes more and more impressive that Metroid Prime sold for 40.
I know,
No
guys.
kidding.
I need to start that. I got that, but I have not started it yet because I got distracted by Mario Kart and then making a video.
Before we wrap up, I did want to say, is there any other games that you would want to see, both either on the 3DS or Wii U, come to Switch, or just kind of get saved from those platforms?
Uprising. Kid Icarus Uprising.
Kid Icarus, yep, that's another one.
That's the
Like I
default.
said,
Yeah.
like I said earlier before, Phoenix Ace Attorney, 4 through 8. So Apollo Justice, Dual Destinies, and Spirit of Justice.
I'm dying for Ever Oasis to finally
Oasis
be in HD on Switch. Please, it is Nintendo exclusive. It did not get the attention it deserved. It's such a fun game.
I was also going to say Kid Icarus Uprising, which is a great game that I love a lot, and is literally unplayable if you're left-handed. So,
I mean,
I'm
everyone's saying I'm crazy, but Bandai Namco started hiring for a 3D action game remake shortly after Smash DLC ended. And in one of Sakurai's YouTube videos, he was like, wouldn't it be crazy if we put Kid Icarus Uprising on Switch? Wink, wink. And I'm like, okay. Like
somebody should
just do it. Just do it.
Just do it. Yeah, just do it. A new audience needs to appreciate the brilliance of that game.
That's the thing. I don't need a second Kid Icarus game. I would love it, but I don't need it. As long as you give me the first game on Switch with the amazing online multiplayer, I'll shut my dang trap and enjoy what I got.
Literally, you don't need to add anything.
I would buy Kid Icarus Uprising for $60.
Me too.
Yeah, that game is a lot for a handheld game. Honestly, selling it for 40 was kind of a steal.
It's like 2 games in one. It's a Sakurai game. He doesn't know when to stop.
It was a pretty close to launch title for the 3DS too, wasn't it?
The first one announced.
So like that's a really meaty game for like early 3DS.
And I'm just saying, like, if they fix the controls to be not 3DS controls, and they don't need to change anything else. That's like the only change they need to make. Because otherwise, I think this game is like brilliant top to bottom. Just fix the controls, and you have a $60 package.
If you replaced the like touchscreen stuff with gyro, or even just had gyro as an option, like I feel like it would be literally 1-to-1. So I guess for the last segment of the show here, I figured we could just, talk about whatever we've been playing recently, if we've been playing anything recently, because I kind of don't know for some of y'all. And on that note, I'm going to start with you, Kirstin, just because.
The game that I just finished was Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, which was great.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I finished that the other day. I got through most of it by myself, and then I used like spoiler-free guides to get the other endings.
How long is it?
It's not very long at all.
Okay,
you can probably finish everything up in like less than 10 hours.
I've been interested in it.
And after that,
fantastic.
I have jumped into Resident Evil 4 Remake. And it has kind of ruined my life because it's so much freaking fun.
I was going to say, you were pretty apprehensive, weren't you?
Yeah, me and horror have never clicked hand in hand. But after trying the demo a couple times, realizing that it had aim assist, I was like, I think I can do this. And I've made it up to chapter 7, I think. And
wow.
I've been loving every minute. I started it yesterday.
Oh my goodness.
I'm almost halfway at this point, and I'm just like, it's hard to stop because it just every time I stop to go do something else, I'm like, I just want to do a little bit more here.
Yeah, I'm really tempted by it. I think Resident Evil 4 might be my next game.
I think I might try the demo. I'm currently almost done watching a playthrough of it, and I might actually pick it up to play it myself. It's very entertaining to watch, and it is a very well-paced game that would definitely keep you going far longer than you say you would be. It's fantastic. I just like watching it. I think the story is great. I think the voice acting is also very good, but I haven't bought it. I chose to watch it instead because I'm also not that much of a horror player, but I do want to give the demo a shot now that I know what is ahead and maybe try it out because it's a fantastic game.
Is it a good entry point? Because I've been wanting to get into
100%.
Resident Evil, and it is okay, good. Because I've been wanting to get into that series, but I didn't know if I should start with the PS1 games or Resident Evil 4 or one of the
Here's the
newer
thing.
remakes. So
As far as horror goes, 1, 2, and 3 are high on the horror and survival, in my opinion. 1 in particular is probably the hardest game in the series. So that's one I wouldn't recommend starting there unless you really, really like the survival element with wildly limited ammo. But four is fantastic because it still kind of has the grotesqueness of Resident Evil without the sort of jump scares, and you have plenty of ability to fight back.
From the sound of it, it sounds more Last of Us than like actual horror, like, which is fine by me.
The funniest thing is I was just thinking this not that long ago, is I was like, I feel like my experience playing this kind of reminds me of playing the most recent Tomb Raider games.
Oh, and I like those games. So.
Yeah, they're similar in a lot of ways, I think.
It's definitely tempting me. I haven't looked that much into it just because I haven't had the time, but I'm hearing nothing but acclaim, and it is a series I've been wanting to try out for a while, so it's on my radar for sure.
To that point about comparing Resident Evil 4 to other games, Resident Evil 4 on the GameCube inspired those games.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. I mean, I used to have like problems with like horror in games, and like Last of Us 2, it's not a horror game, but there are parts like toward the end that
some like, parts of that game are a horror game, honestly.
No, and like that was sort of a first dip into that, and I actually did really enjoy that, especially because I was playing it with my sister, and I was playing and my sister was watching, and she was the one who was getting all freaked out, and I'm like, okay, I need to focus and make sure we don't die. So, so like, yeah, I want something similar with RE4, and that sounds appealing.
I'll say about Resident Evil 4 is like, for the first portion of that game, you're just fighting like old men and women.
Yeah, like I'm watching a playthrough and I'm like, man, there's a lot of grandma and grandpa.
Like, nothing scarier than old people. Come on now.
Yeah, and they shout at you. There's no like subtitle for what they're saying. It's in Spanish. Yeah, I think. But they throw like dynamite and torches and whatever at you. It's there's some comedy in it.
That's
like
fun.
Inherent comedy in just having old people throw things at you.
Yeah, you're just getting attacked by the entire Spanish-speaking geriatric community.
It's still a horror game to some degree, but I think if you can stomach like a Last of Us or like the recent Tomb Raider games, I'm pretty sure Resi 4 would be up your alley.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, I gotta add that to my radar then.
That might be a purchase for me then.
I'm gonna try the demo tomorrow. See how I do.
Yeah, I might need to download that too.
I would just recommend going into the settings and turning on aim assist, because
absolutely,
it changed my world.
100%.
I'm a big dumb baby casual. I love aim assist. I love gyro. Just give me that. Actually, Jenny, I don't know what you've been up to, like in general.
I haven't been playing a ton lately because I was finishing up this video that I just came out yesterday when we recorded this about licensed games. So early plug for that. But otherwise, in between that, I have been watching a lot of shows and stuff lately, so I haven't been doing as much gaming. But the main thing I do play when I've been doing gaming is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, because earlier this month there were the new courses, and I've been using that as an opportunity to go back and do the 200cc time trials, which are the only single player thing I haven't done yet, and it's really hard, but
I bet.
Yeah, it's been a fun way to sort of get my skills going, and also just to play more of the new courses, because it is interesting. Whenever I boot up that game, it's like there's the old courses that I've played like probably thousands of times and all of them, and then the new ones where there's still like a new allure to them. So I've been doing all the time trials. I've been so that's sort of what I've been doing. I do plan on starting Metroid soon because I got the physical copy earlier this month. And I also played most of Xenoblade Future Connected, and I got to the final boss, like right before the final boss, and I stopped and I forgot to go back and finish it. So I should probably do that in the next few days.
I laughed because that's a game that I keep forgetting about.
Yeah, it's
might
fine.
be a little important.
It's important. It's like, it's definitely my least favorite Xenoblade experience of like 1, 2, Torna, Future Connected. Like it's definitely a little bit of a middle chapter. Like I don't think the world or gameplay is especially stunning, but it's a nice little like in between like bonus on the Xenoblade 1 re-release.
The thing I'll say about it for you, Brandon, is that it is really short.
Yeah,
it is.
That's why I've just been like, oh, to keep putting it off.
I think it was like I was playing it while traveling, like while on an airplane with my headphones on, and I was like, when I got to the final boss area, I'm like, I don't want to do this on an airplane. I want to do this at home, and then I forgot to finish it. So
I didn't think Future Connected was all that good, but it is definitely something to reference back to with where Xenoblade 3 could go with its story DLC.
I mean, because I am that's next up on my plays. Xenoblade 3. I mean, I don't know when I'll fit that in because of Tears of the Kingdom being out in like less than 2 months, but that is one of the next ones. Maybe I should like just get it and just rush through the story or something. Just
you can totally do that. I do
maybe.
think the main story is if you're main pathing it, it's relatively short for Xenoblade.
Okay, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
So. The reason you might not want to do that is because the worlds are massive and it's really fun to explore.
I do like
and there are side quests for the extra character, like extra NPC character that you can have, which will also unlock classes. I at this point consider those almost mandatory.
And there are a couple that are like, why wasn't this on the main path?
I've heard that. Well, okay, so actually,
Potato Farmer should have been main story.
well, actually, I'm getting the Zelda Switch OLED. I managed to get a pre-order for that to my local Best Buy.
Nice.
So I mean, once I get that, I should just use that as an excuse to go through my Switch backlog. I mean, on top of Tears of the Kingdom coming out a few weeks later, like going and finally doing Xenoblade 3. So when I'm doing those types of side quests, I can just do that in handheld mode. Because right now, with my launch Switch, my Joy-Con have drift. So unless I use these huge like those like third-party like fake Joy-Con that are like really big,
the hoary
that are
ones.
like controller shaped with like monstrosities. Whenever I play it in public, someone comments on it and it makes me feel insecure.
Just tell them it's a Steam Deck.
So like once I get an OLED, I can play in handheld mode for real again, and I'll do that.
And you should, because the screen is just fantastic.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, I upgraded to an OLED before Xenoblade 3 came out. I was very happy I did, because I don't know how this game would have ran, like even like frame rate wise on a launch Switch.
Yeah, and like the launch Switch didn't have like the battery update and stuff, so it's gonna be like a pretty big and more internal storage. So like I'm glad to finally be getting one, especially a limited edition one. It'll go nice with my limited edition 3DS. But
Wish Xenoblade 3 had one.
I also upgraded from a 2017 Switch to the OLED when that came out, so I had forgotten that they had released like the better battery one, and I was like, oh right, yeah, like you can get like 5 hours off of this thing.
Awesome. So nice.
I'll tell you what, Jenny, never feel ashamed of using the Hori because those things are amazing and I love them to pieces.
I mean, they've been a lifesaver since my Joy-Con started getting drift. So like I'm gonna keep them around, but maybe when I'm playing out in like when I'm bringing it through airport security, they aren't gonna be like, that's a weird Switch. Like,
I'll tell you what, Hori made their second version, which is like a smaller one.
I saw those, and I do like those though. They look a little more. The Joy-Con aren't the most ergonomic. The Hori ones are technically more ergonomic, but they're also a lot bigger. I kind of like the balance in those new designs. I hope I don't think I said that word right, but still.
Steven, you've been playing lately video games.
Other than watching Resident Evil 4 and maybe starting to play it in this coming week, I played through the majority of Spider-Man Remastered. I've only played that game one other time, back when it came out in 2018. Okay,
so this is like a real game. Like kind of refresher for you then.
Yeah, with lovely 4K 40 FPS ray tracing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I wanna complete it before Spider-Man 2 in the fall. I've had a really fun time with that. And then I've also started playing Great Ace Attorney on Switch.
Oh,
that's also been very fun.
I've heard that combined, aren't those games like 90 hours? I've heard that they're very long.
If you're playing real casually.
Kirstin and I were talking about that. It's like 70 hours across both.
Yeah.
And it's one of my criticisms of it is it feels like the script is 1.5 times longer than it should be, because information often gets repeated. But I just like the way, like, the new audio stuff for like voice acting, and the music is great. And I really like I almost said Holmes. His name is Sholmes.
Yes, of course. Big difference. You wouldn't want to get it confused.
Herlock Sholmes.
This is a legal friendly podcast.
I really like that character, and he has a very good mechanic based around like his deductions that I think is my favorite part of the game. It's just very good time court drama, and I miss this style of humor because I haven't played the other Ace Attorneys in a while.
Yeah, I've been I've had that Ace Attorney itch for a little bit. I've only played a couple in the series, but I did pick up Great Ace Attorney when it came out, and I should maybe find 70 hours to go through those games.
You can take it one game at a time too.
Yeah,
I'm gonna finish the first game and then play something else.
Yeah,
and then maybe go back to the second game at some point.
I played them back to back, and I was so tired by the end of
it. Burnout with long games is a real it's a dangerous prospect for sure.
Yeah.
And that sort of gets into what I've been doing lately. So I beat Fire Emblem Engage over the weekend finally.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which was I've dabbled in every Fire Emblem since Awakening, and I have only completed one route of 3 houses, and now Engage. So now I'm feeling like a proper Fire Emblem boy. I had a good time. The story's kind of doo-doo garbage, but I liked it in spite of that. But it was a fun game that took me like something like 45 hours to beat. And then while I was playing Engage, I started Octopath Traveler 2, and then I was like, what am I doing? I was like, I'm not going to play these massive JRPGs back to back.
I did the exact same thing. I was playing Engage, and then Octopath 2 came out, and I'm like, Octopath 2, this is great. I played about like 7.5 hours, then I'm like, but oh wait, I need to finish Engage first.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm proud of myself for actually like seeing Fire Emblem through to the end. Because that is a bad habit of mine. But just like finishing that and being like, looking at the Octopath 2 disc on my desk, and I'm like, I can't do it. Not right now. I'll come back to you. You're like twice as long. Pretty much immediately after I finished Engage, I picked up Spider-Man Miles Morales.
Oh,
2 Spider-Man players.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the main reason why I brought up Remastered on the show is because this morning you let me know that you were playing Miles, and I'm like, oh yeah. I should go play more Spider-Man.
Play more Spider-Man, but then also the Tears of the Kingdom footage got you in the mood for Breath of the Wild, and it's just there's too many games to play. It just
too many games.
Yeah. Too many.
God, I hope we I hope we like maybe from Sony's like E3 summer thing, or not E3, whatever summer they have. I hope we hear more about Spider-Man 2 soon, because Spider-Man like 2018 is probably my favorite PS4 game, and I am just very excited to see what they do with the sequel. And I like the fact that the sequel to that and the sequel to Breath of the Wild are coming out in the same year. Is just like, this is going to be a tricky game of the year cycle.
Did you play Miles yet, Jenny?
Yes, I did. And I did really like Miles. It was like, it definitely did feel like that sort of like bonus campaign. Like it didn't feel like a full sequel, but I really liked it for what it was.
I sort of like the faster pace compared to 2018. There's something about kind of like all of like kind of the I'm gonna use this in a derogative sense, but I still like the game, but kind of like all the open world junk and all the chores.
Yeah,
like it just it's a lot snappier, and it feels a little more, a little tighter. Like it's not like I didn't like that stuff in Spider-Man 2018, but just sort of like, oh yeah, here's all this stuff, and it just goes by so much faster. The story's paced. After 2 sessions with it, I'm already like halfway done.
Exactly.
So,
And I
yeah.
I agree with you. Like I like that stuff in a vacuum, but I'm also okay with having a more brisk version of the campaign.
Yeah, it's
Like,
just sort of like, oh yeah, this is what like a fast version feels like. And
and plus I just love the
nice.
winter aesthetic in it. It's just like such a
Yeah,
pretty game too. It was the
it's
first one I
so
played on
cozy.
PS5.
I've still not played Spider-Man, and I really need to.
Oh, you should.
I will say this though, after playing Miles again, because I played it with a friend earlier in the year, I was like, oh yeah, I want to play 2018 again because I haven't played it since the month it came out. Switching from Miles with all of his cool traversal stuff and like stealth tools and abilities back to Peter without those traversal tools and stealth abilities. It's a change.
That makes me really curious what they're going to do for Spider-Man 2.
Well, because in the
Miles
trailer
is so
he
much
had the Iron Spider suit, like the one with like the legs popping out from his back, like in the MCU. So I'm like, okay, is that going to be a Peter's gimmick? And then when you play as Miles, you have your invisibility and electricity. Like, is that going to be their way of balancing it? To be like, hey, Peter has some cool abilities too.
Right, we got to make sure he's not the unfun one.
Yeah, I do hope that you get a chance to play it soon, Kirstin. Both games are very fun.
Yeah,
I really
neither are that long.
I just have to buy it.
Yeah.
And I know that you have some trepidation against open world games, but it's pretty easy to golden path both without too much of an issue.
I genuinely don't like again, just like open world fluff and filler, but I find like the Spider-Man's take on it to be pretty like, yeah, there's a lot of it, but like I think you get through it pretty quickly.
It's weird because for me, my hesitation for getting Spider-Man for so long was less to do with, the gameplay looked fun, but I've had such bad luck in my youth with licensed games that trauma
really?
just lives on in me, and I'm like, I don't want to get really shitty licensed game. There's all this praise for it, and I'm like, what if it's bad though?
Insomniac's got that sauce though. Like, I don't know. I haven't played that many Insomniac games, but like I play Spider-Man and I'm like, yeah, this is a studio that used to make 3D platformers. Like, you can feel it.
I've actually played quite a few Insomniac games, so you'd think I'd have all the more reason to get Spider-Man, but it just passed me by because of my licensed game fear.
It's sort of like when you see Platinum Games and you're like, oh, they're making TMNT or Legend of Korra. You're like, well, it's Platinum, so it can't be bad. And then you're like, oh no, that's actually extra stinky.
Yeah, that's a valid fear to have.
But even revered developers can definitely have stinkers. But
yeah.
How can we forget the Bakugan reveal for Way Forward?
Okay.
Although Way Forward and their licensed game track record is a whole other story. They are.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if that's you're like,
they're the most inconsistent studio on this planet, I think.
Even their good games, I feel like, are iffy.
Well, actually, no. Platinum is the most inconsistent studio on this planet. It's like,
yeah, it definitely.
It's a dice roll on if it's a masterpiece or the biggest mess you've ever played.
Well, I think if we're kind of got through everything, maybe we should start wrapping this show up. So I don't know, Jenny, you got something good to promote, so
I got my video.
Talk about a thing and tell people where they can find you.
Speaking of licensed games, I did the video about modern licensed games where like the very few movie tie-in games that come out these days, and they are much weirder than they used to be. Like just to spoil one of the games, one of them is a Hotel Transylvania themed Pikmin game. Like, it's literally just Pikmin. So for stuff like that, or just also talk about like multiverses and Garfield's Kart and Steven Universe.
Multiverses one is particularly funny now.
Yeah, like it's the second time I made a video that talks about a service game, and then shortly after they announced something relating to that service game's future, and it's like, I guess I'll start taking requests for service games to cover. But I'm sorry, Dragalia Lost fans, but I missed the chance on that one. But yeah, so like you can check that out. I'm on YouTube .com/JennyGeistVids, also on Twitter JennyGeist_, Patreon Jenny Geist. So all the places to find me in my videos.
I think you might have buried the lead on this one a little bit. This video is an hour long.
Oh yeah, it's my first hour-long video. I covered double the amount of games since last time when I did a video like this, so I thought I might as well make it twice as long too. So yeah, it's my first hour-long video.
How long did that take you, by the way? I'm sorry, I'm dragging out the self-promotion segment, but I'm genuinely curious.
It took a long time because I started playing games for this in like November of last year. And I wasn't like constantly working toward it, but it was something I was like pre-production was then. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to see if I can get this done in January. And now it's the end of March. So that didn't work out.
I can relate.
Yeah. So it like 3 to 4 months of like not constant work, but like, yeah. So when you're like, you see someone else drop an hour-long video, you're like, oh, I can do that. But if you're a solo act, you don't have an editor or a co-writer or someone to help you get footage, it takes a lot longer than you would think. Yeah, but yeah, sorry for tracking that out.
Oh no, I love it. So definitely check that out if you're keen. Kirstin, what are you up to these days?
Same old, really. I mean, you can find me on Twitter at Robobat. I haven't done anything in particular recently.
No reviews, no nothing for your site.
Nothing super recent. Just normal writing for HardcoreGamer.
Stephen, then.
I am pretty much in the same boat. I don't really have anything to promote this episode. You can find me on Twitter though, Stephen Mattern, no spaces and then 0 at the end. Otherwise, I might have something pop up on cube3.com in the near future, but right now, nothing is on the track.
This is also a complete tangent, but we've got time, so I'm here for it. But do you ever think about how like, what are people gonna do on podcasts when like Twitter eventually just like implodes on itself? Where you'd be like, well, what do you do?
That's when you start promoting your Tumblr.
Question.
Yeah. I have a Tumblr. Jenny Geist Vids on Tumblr. Come find me.
We'll have to. I don't know. It's just one of those things. Like I listen to podcasts all the time. And everyone's like, "Yeah, here's my Twitter handle," and I'm like, I guess it's just like a thing that I'm like, I guess this is what people do. But
you can find me at my house. This is my address.
You can find me.
It doesn't help that by the day Twitter becomes a more and more unusable platform.
Exactly. So it's
so
like
bad.
I don't know if anyone in the year 2023 is like listening to a podcast and is like, I'm gonna follow these people on Twitter for how long that this is going to continue to exist.
It's just gonna become like it's gonna just become part of the lexicon. Like saying your Twitter is like saying goodbye. It's
wow.
It's like how like goodbye came like phonetically like comes from like God be with ye, and like it's just gonna transform into its own term, completely divorced from the original meaning.
Wow. This is the Twitter plug has taken on an entirely new meaning.
Exactly.
Although, speaking of Twitter plugs, see what I did there?
Hey!
I'm at Brandon Bovia on that crumbling carcass of a website where I'm, as I close out my other podcasts with, I'd like to say that I talk about anime, manga, games, and my job, which is working in the manga industry on hit manga, like some Dragon Ball thing. I don't know.
What?
Crazy.
Never heard of it. But I also do a One Piece podcast. That's on youtube.com/bitnerdgames, where we cover 5 chapters of the manga every week. We're at the end of Skypiea, which will mean something to somebody.
Means everything to me.
to 3 out of 4 people on this panel. Yeah.
What do you think a Skypiea is, Jenny? Jenny, what are your feelings on the Skypiea arc, just in general?
I like the part where Goku shows up and he's
good
like,
answer. Close enough. All right, thanks for listening, everybody. I'll try to get the next one out a little more promptly, but until then, bye.
Bye.
I'm a broken person because of this.